The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
So hello, a very warm welcome to the VAR show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues. Today we have a very special guest. We have Mr. Yasar Latif, who is a UFA licensed coach, football coach, and also he is involved in the media aspect of football. Like he runs his own podcast, the Coaches Network. I think it's more than a podcast, but what I have been introduced to is of the podcast part where I usually follow up mostly the football related. It's only not only football related. I think he has across the sport and maybe across general lifestyle of physical or whatever, like the general lifestyle goodness of a general human being. He has guests coming over and speaking. So today we have him, and it's an honor to have him here because he's an amazing person to listen to. I think what I have got at least of from his podcast, it's amazing. So yes sir, thank you for giving me your time when the time is not actually very good for everyone. Like you don't know how much each person has left. Like it's just weird. I don't know to make that sentence, but it's very weird. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming, and welcome to the show. And I'll ask like maybe the basic question, like how are you and how has this period been for you?
yeah. No, first of all, thank you for having me, man. As you said, it's a difficult time for everyone. I think that we had a brief chat off air a few moments back, and we were just touching on the idea that I think the most important thing is that we're still here, we're still healthy, we still got thankfully our lives to be thankful of. There's plenty of people out there who can't say that, and that's around the world. So I think at a time like this, I think it's like I said, it gives us an opportunity to kind of take a step back and be more grateful for the things that we do have. But yeah, that just to kind of thank you for having me, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good too. I mean, like it's quite good. I mean, like same. I think same thing for everyone. I'll dive straight in. Then you are primarily a coach. I mean, like before, if if
Yeah,
you have to identify yourself as someone, then you will say I'm a football coach. Not like media came later on. Maybe as the options grew and as your contacts grew, maybe you volunteer or like you went towards that area. So how did you get into football? What was your first introduction? Why did you
yeah. So kind of just to kind of pick. Yeah, so I mean, for me, my journey. So yeah, I am a football coach first and foremost. More recently, I've been working more the coach education space. So my journey started about just over 10 years ago. Um, Started coaching with my local grassroots teams. As you said, maybe as a volunteer, did that for a couple years. Um, it was interesting because I never really consider myself someone who'd be going into that sort of field. Whether it be coaching, whether it be teaching, I never saw myself that kind of an individual. But I've always had a passion for football specifically, and then it was around about 16, 17. After I finished college, I'm decided, right, what am I gonna do next? Where do I want to go with this? Still unsure. So I actually ended up falling into the wrong crowd, really, and I ended up, I guess, doing some things I shouldn't have been doing. Ended up with some convictions, and off the back of that, had to make a decision as to where I wanted to go next with my journey and what I was going to do next with my life, really. And like I said at the top of that, I've always had a passion for football. Played football, not a competitive level, but I was a really good, a big fan of the game. Had people around me that were coaches, and they'd always encouraged me to maybe go and do the coaching qualifications and consider it. But that was the first time where I actually probably considered it seriously. So I went and did my first, my FA level 1. Obviously, all the different governing bodies have different qualifications, but that was like the kind of the introductory entry level qualification over here. And yeah, I kind of haven't looked back since, really. Since then, it's just been a challenging journey. One with plenty of ups, plenty of downs, plenty of amazing experiences along the way, and I've met some amazing people along the way too. And then kind of brought me to where I am today. Like I said, last couple of years more specifically, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about it in detail. But last couple of years more specifically, I've spent in the coach education space, so working with the local FA, in delivering just like those entry level qualifications, and be also FA level 1, 2, and then supporting with some of the level 3 qualifications, which would be the UEFA B license over here in the UK. So I've been kind of doing that the last couple of years, and then so last year, similar to yourself, set up a podcast. Really because I was just bored. I was bored. I had the idea for a couple of years, but in May, got to May, I sat down with my wife and just bored out of my head. We'd already been in lockdown for about 2 months by this point, and then we had a discussion, just like, well, you've got this idea for this podcast, why don't you just start it? And I was looking for every reason not to, because I was just being lazy, but I thought, let's just do it. And then, it's just gone from strength to strength, and now I'm sitting here in front of you.
Definitely. And I wanted to ask you, again, we have spoken quite a while back also, not maybe over phone but through text, maybe not often but sporadically here and there. And I wanted to ask, were you were you born in UK and raised in UK?
Yeah, so I'm born and bred in the UK. My mother's from Pakistan, and my father's from Malawi. So yeah, born and bred in the UK, and like I said, so I guess one of the other things I guess challenges I do have is obviously being an Asian in football. There's not many of them. It's almost we're almost made to feel some ways that we don't actually belong in the game because we're not visible. So I think for me to, I guess, achieve some of the things I've done in my personal journey in terms of qualifications I've got and whatnot, I'm really proud of that. And hopefully that's just the beginning of what will hopefully be a long and healthy career in the game.
Definitely. I wanted to ask, you touched on the thing where you said there are very few Asians and South Asians, even there are huge, there's a lesser number. I think the only one which strikes out is maybe Zesh Rahman, who played for, I think I forget which team he played for in Premier League, but he played for 2-3 teams.
Yeah.
He played for 2-3 teams. And then you had I think you had Michael Chopra, who again was not a star, but he was a good player. So I think those two, and that too, Michael Chopra, you can't really say that he was a South Asian. He later came this side because his chances were less in the UK, and probably he saw a bigger fame in this part of the world, and understandably so. His personal opinion. And you said the chances are less, and for me sitting here in Nepal, it's easy to say, oh, if you are qualified enough, you will get a job. But what is the real scenario there? Even if you're qualified, don't they or don't they let you
Well, I think it's twofold. As you said, in the qualification, if you've got the qualification, you should be able to do the job. But it's not always as simple as that. I think first and foremost, one thing that's highlighted, just because you have a qualification doesn't necessarily mean you're good enough to do the job. And then having the qualification is good in terms of, I guess, a benchmark, so to speak. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can do the job. It's still theory. It's not practical experience. And I think any industry it will relate. Practical experience, in my opinion, tops that of a qualification. Qualification is just a way of, I guess, present you with new ideas and maybe structures and a bit more organized way of working, if that makes sense. So I think for me, qualifications are very important. Just to kind of paint a picture around that. I've gone through the qualification. I've got an A license, as you mentioned earlier. I've got the Advanced Youth Award, which is basically the FA's equivalent of an A license, a level 4 qualification, but specific for youth players. So over here in England, we have 3 different phases that we define as. So we've got the foundation phase, which is your 5 to 11s. Then you've got your youth development phase, which is your 12 to 16s, and then you've got your professional development phase, which is your 17s to 23s. And then obviously after that, you then considered a senior player. So it's quite a structured pathway there. I mean, to come back to your question, there is plenty of, I guess, knowledge built up through the qualifications. But I think, as with any industry, it's more about who you know. And that's one thing. The second thing is obviously being from an underrepresented community, more specifically in this case, the South Asian community. We're not seen in the game. So, I've had this conversation with many people recently from different backgrounds and different ethnicities. talking about the challenges that they're facing within the elite game and trying to get into the professional game more specifically. And really, it's almost, you know, when I'm having these conversations with them, it's almost like I'm speaking to myself in the mirror. And you know, I think what needs to happen now, you know, especially in England, we've got this whole movement around diversity and inclusion and people trying to get more diverse workforces. And I think the issue we have with that is when people are looking to get more diverse workforces, it's just a stat. Now, being diverse in your workforce doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be diverse in your views and ways of thinking. So I think where people need to kind of shift their culture, shift the culture of the industry and shift the attitudes of the individuals is moving away from this idea of having diversity, but actually having, and not even thinking about having an integrated approach, but having more of an inclusive approach. Because I think inclusion is the key part, and inclusion is it's the act of actually being inclusive, act of actually having these people made to feel like they're worth or valued in the environment. Whereas diversity could just be, right, we need one Asian, we need one black, we need one, you know, Eastern European. We need one person from each of these each of these communities to be part of this environment to make it more diverse. If that makes sense.
It does make sense, but I have like that part what you said, like where you have the inclusion. Won't that maybe in the shorter term it's a good thing, but when you go for a longer term, don't you think it will be a problem? Because then you will have to take someone even if he's not qualified or if he's not good enough. Like just because you are from a minority doesn't mean that you have to get a spot. Like, you get what I mean? Like, you should be good enough.
Well, this is it. So you see, like, I think you know, again, I can only speak on the climate over here, and one thing that I personally feel, I think you should be given it on the merits of your competency. If you're good enough, then yeah, be given the job. It should never come down to, because I'm brown and he's white, or he's black and I'm brown, so we're one above the other because of the color of our skin. So that should never be the case, or whether it's be the color of our skin, whether it be our religion, or whatever that might be. So I think that diversity piece is key, because people think, right, just because I've got this person in there, that yeah, we're now diverse. Right, you're diverse, but are you inclusive? Because when that person comes into your environment, are they scared or are they fearful that they're going to have to behave differently because of their background, because of the color of their skin, because of their religion? You know, is that something that they're going to have to consciously think about? The amount of coaches that I know that have gone into different environments and they are consciously thinking, right, I have to be better than everyone else here because I'm X, or I have to be better than everyone else here because there's only one of me. And that's a lot of pressure. And I think what comes with that as well is, unfortunately, if one person from that community or from a certain community of people isn't maybe up to the best standards or whatnot, then for people who are not open-minded, that can very easily turn into a situation where, well, we gave one of them a chance, he wasn't quite good enough, or she wasn't quite good enough, so that means the rest of them are going to be like that too. So it's very easy for them to kind of label the whole community, and I think that's one of the biggest issues. I think the second thing to consider within that is, and this is just an observation of mine from my experience, is when you do get some people who from underrepresented backgrounds are in these environments, I often find that they're not as willing to open the door for other people from those communities. Either A, because they may see them as a threat potentially, B, because they're happy to be the only one in that environment, and I think that gives them a sense of security. But my view is this is simple. If you're in an environment, if you've been given a job and you don't believe that you should have that job, that's why you feel insecure. If you feel like you're good enough and you've got the confidence, then it wouldn't matter to you who else is in there with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But you know, like the one thing what you said, I think it's the mentality that we have here, because you are born and bred there, so you are exposed to something else, which probably even if I spend maybe 1-2 years there, I'll have that mentality, or I'll catch on, or maybe I'll not catch on because of my past experiences. Like you said, right? Like since I'm the only person, so I have to be the best of, so maybe like kind of represent the full, whatever you're representing, race, religion,
Yeah,
whatever you're representing. But when I had gone to Barcelona for a course there, I always had that, like, but I always took it like, okay, this is not like maybe I'll get left behind in terms of, maybe even that was one thing, because you often consider maybe Europe, like football, to be European game. Like, although
yeah,
Brazil or South America is good, or they have more to show, but you generally consider, okay, football was born and bred in Europe, maybe not entirely, maybe not in UK, but all parts of it had led to the overall development from Austria to wherever. Like, we have multiple sources where it grew. So when I
mm,
went there, I'll just say that it's like I always had that. And when I gave my first presentation, I and one more guy from India, like we were two of them were there. We didn't know each other. We just went there, and we just happened to meet there in for the course. And I'm not. There were people who were working from Japan, whatever. They were working for Watford and various other courses, and we were relatively, like, newbies or noobs in terms of football. No experience, nothing. He was an IIT engineer. I'm also an engineer, computer engineer. We were both. We just wanted to learn. And our presentation, I'm not joking, was the best among professionals, because I think, like, in this part of the world, you have to fight to like, you have the fighting mentality. You get what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying it's correct. I mean, like, I think it's wrong.
No, I think just one thing on that is what I would say is, so coming back to the idea of working hard, I think working hard is very important, but you should never have to feel that you need to work harder because you are from a certain community. Working hard should be for everyone.
But then that will only go out with time, when maybe your particular nation does well. Like, you can't remove that notion, if, like, because see, when they see, suppose a person who is brown, in suppose someone goes to not maybe Chelsea is a very big club, maybe they will not have their inclusion, because you have had legends who or they may even have, I do not know them personally, but any other club, maybe smaller down the road, maybe like if you go to Portsmouth, maybe they
Mm.
even Portsmouth is very big to be saying that. But okay, like, if some a brown person goes there, and maybe they say, like, okay, from where do you come from, and he says, okay, I'm coming from maybe Sri Lanka. So the first thing, even if you don't do, okay, you see, okay, Sri Lanka, I have not heard football about that country. Do they play football? Like, even,
But this is the problem.
yeah.
It's lack of education in some cases. I think a lot of people have this unconscious bias because they don't know anything about the community or the environment. So, but one thing that you certainly see in more now in England is that some of the clubs are, I guess, employing more diverse workforces and being more inclusive because they're starting to recognise actually the players at the clubs are becoming more diverse. So because they're becoming more diverse, we need to make the coaches and the staff more diverse and more inclusive so that there's still a connect between the players and the staff. Recently there's been a couple clubs which have been doing really well with that, and they're bringing on stuff because they're recognizing actually the areas that they are operating in, they're going to get a lot of ethnic players. And because they're getting a lot of ethnic players, they can't expect people who don't look like those people to connect with them effectively. It's not to say they can't connect with them, but they won't. There's just going to be things that they don't understand, And as a parent, you're not coming into that environment and you're thinking to yourself, right? I'm an Asian man. If I've got an Asian child and I'm taking him to the team, and then I'm thinking to myself, right, who in this environment is my child going to be able to relate to? Who's going to understand or have some empathy for the journey or the culture or the background and the upbringing and the challenges within that my child has had to go through? That is the biggest thing. So for coaches, so for clubs and academies more specifically, they need to start to recognise that, depending on, obviously, the catchment area is obviously going to be important as well. You go to some parts of England, the whole team is full of white boys from England, no problem, because that's the demographic of the area. if you go, I'm based in London, and in the inner city of London, most of the clubs now, they're very diverse. They've got very a range of ethnicities and communities, backgrounds within their groups. So they're now, you're seeing it more and more in London specifically. I can't comment too much on outside of that because I haven't got too much knowledge of the other clubs, but I do know there's some other clubs in the Midlands and up north that having to now start employ more diverse, employ more diversity and inclusive workforces across their academy program, whether that just be coaches, whether that be the multiple disciplines, whether that be sports science, strength and conditioning, all the other stuff. And it is down to that reason, because you can't have a 50-year-old Caucasian male trying to relate to a 16-year-old boy from the inner streets of London. Completely different background. There's going to be a disconnect somewhere, so they need to kind of bridge that. And it's not to say that those people can't add value, because I think everyone's got value to add it. And I think it's just the bit about inclusion that is key is valuing everyone's differences and seeing these differences as strengths, as opposed to actually because they're from here they're no good here, or because they're from here and they know they went through this journey that they're not important. No, everyone's got value to add, and I think that's the key part. So for me, we've got to move away from this idea of it's got to be more diverse. It's not about diversity, because diversity could be me as the governing body saying, right, you've got a club, you've got an academy, you've got 30 coaches. Because I'm the governing body, you have to employ 10 that aren't Caucasian males. You're only going to do that because I've told you to do that. What we need to do is get to a point where we're shifting the mindset of people and the environments to say, actually, I'm not employing this person because there's a program in place, or because there's a quota, or because there's a rule that says I have to employ a certain number of these people from these communities. No, we want to get to the point where people are saying, actually, I don't care where you're from. Or better yet, it's not about where you're from. It's about what you're bringing to the environment, what value you can add, regardless of where you're from. And the fact that you're from these different places is where even more value can come out of it. And I think that's the mindset that we need to kind of get to. Certainly in England, and I think that's the biggest challenge. So, coming back right to the top of the point, the question was looking at myself as a South Asian man. There's not many in the country that are visible. I probably, from my own experience, I probably only know about 3 or 4 people who have an A license that are South Asian men. Never mind all the other underrepresented backgrounds. So for me, it's almost like looking at thinking, right, one of us has got to do something. One of us has got to try and break through. But if one of us does go through and does break through, we've got to try and help each other, because it's only through that we're going to start to shift and transform mindsets and behaviors of these people that can make the decisions. The ones that do have power. For us, it's not. So for me, it's not about having power per se, but it's about being able to influence some of these decisions, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and I wanted to add only to at least my point of what I think is, you said, how there is diversity in some clubs, or they are coming up fast, or at whatever rate it is. I feel, again, I can be totally wrong. I feel there are 2 things to this. First of all, South Asia is a huge market where they get a lot of what do you call a lot of audience interaction, social media following. You can increase your market tremendously. Even a small club, even if not a small, but maybe a relatively small club like Portsmouth in comparison to maybe someone like United, if they can manage or bridge the gap to come to maybe to cater to this part of the world. So somehow maybe you get some players from Pakistan or India or somewhere to come. You have a whole nation supporting that that club, and the nation's population is huge. So I think that is one thing why they are trying to at least show. I do not know them personally, but so I feel like at least show that they are diverse. And secondly, I think we have a lot of owners who are coming from this part, maybe China, maybe from US.
I'll just pause you for 2 seconds on that point. You said that it's about being able to show diversity. That's the problem. It's almost from saying, right, okay, well, we have got someone from Pakistan, we have got someone from Jamaica, we have got someone from Nigeria. We're diverse, but the reality is it's not about that, because if you're, I guess, in some ways, if you're making a point to say, no, we've got someone from from Pakistan, we've got someone from Jamaica, we've got someone from Nigeria, and now we're diverse. The fact that there's people out there trying to make a point that they're diverse because of those reasons, that's an issue. It shouldn't be something to shout about. It shouldn't even be. It's something that shouldn't really be. It's not something to boast about, if that makes sense. It shouldn't be something to boast about. It should just be the norm. So the fact that you're having to, people are having to scream out at the top of their lungs to make a point about these things, that's an issue. That shows me that they are probably just trying to tick a box and say, yeah, we're diverse, rather than saying, actually, we're not going to say anything about what we're doing. You can just see from the outside in, looking at our environment, this is an inclusive environment, because we haven't had to highlight that to you, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, and you know why I made that point is I have many friends in India, and because I did my engineering there in India, and one or two of them had posted a story where it's very normal for Chelsea, United, all the top 4-5 clubs. Nowadays, even the mid-table clubs, they come out and like they post, like maybe yesterday you had an Indian keeper's birthday, so they'll post, okay, happy birthday to the wall of India, whatever. But the sad part is it's a targeted audience. I didn't even know you had that option in Facebook that you can target your audience. I mean, like, that's quite sad that you feel, I don't know whether you feel ashamed, or for whatever reason you do not want to put it in your own main page, and you're only targeting a specific audience for that. It's their page, they can do what they want. But like you said, that's just like, okay, we are diverse, we follow you, we don't really care, but we're just putting it out there. Chelsea did that yesterday, and it's just there. I mean, like, it's weird.
Unfortunately, it's the world that we live in, and like I said, we need to get to the point where we're starting to shift people's mindsets around what that looks like going forward. And I think that's the only way we can do it. And the only way we can is by working together as not looking at each other as competitors, but looking at each other as allies. If one of us is doing well, then hopefully that one could lead to two, and then two could lead to three, and so on and so forth. And it could just be one at a time. But at some point, that one at a time is gonna tip, and now all of a sudden everyone's just gonna come flowing in. But they're gonna come flowing in because they deserve to be there, because they're the right people for the jobs, not because diversity is telling us you need 6 people from here, you need 5 people from there, you need 3 people from there, and that makes a diverse workforce. It's not about diversity; it's about being inclusive.
Definitely, and I don't know whether you are aware, but there's a guy, 17-year-old guy from Bangalore, India, who's working for Dundee.
Okay, no, I wasn't aware now.
He's a scout for Dundee. He works from Bangalore. He's a 17-year-old, and I think they featured him on BBC Today this morning. I think, according to your time.
Sure.
I think it was there. If you go to their page, I think they'll see. So it's like, okay, that is not just for diversity. Okay, that guy is talented, and it's difficult to find him, but I don't know, but that's something. Okay, he's talented. That's why they have. I mean, Dundee is not a big club in the sense that they might be a big club, but to pick up someone from India, it's a 17-year-old from India. I mean, like, it's a statement. It's a good statement.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, like I said, the question is, what happens next? You've brought the 17-year-old in. You've brought this person in. Whoever you've brought in, what happens next? Where do you go next with that? Are you going to stop there and like I said, are you going to stop and say, yeah, we're the team that employed the 17-year-old from India? Okay, great. What else have we done? Is that 17-year-old from India now going to be able to hold the door open for other people from India, other 17-year-olds from India, other just people across the board from India? Is that 17-year-old going to be allowed to progress within the organization? And those are the little bits which make it go from diversity to inclusion. So, as an example, there's so many coaches that I know that work in clubs here and academies here, and I recently had a conversation with one just a few days ago, and I remember the last time we spoke was a few months prior to that, and at the time, he was an under-10s coach at a Premier League academy, and he said to me, well, this is where I'm going to be for the next XYZ amount of time. And I've spoken to him maybe 6 months later. So what's your plans? And then he said, well, my plan is this now. I feel like I can progress now. And back then, his thing was, I didn't feel like I could progress at that time. So I said I was going to be happy where I am because I didn't feel like there was going to be a realistic progression. But now the club's moved on 6 months down the line, a few months down the line. And now there's more people that look like me, not me specifically, but like him as an ethnic coach in the organization. So he feels more confidence that actually there is room for progression. Whereas on the flip side, I've seen other coaches who have been in the same role for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And I'm thinking, right, where's the progression? And it would be one thing for them to turn around and say, actually, I just really enjoy being in this role. But then at the same time, if you're in one role for that long, in my opinion, what does that say about how much you want to progress as an individual? Now, unless you're, I don't know, Man United manager or you're Liverpool's first team manager, even then, staying, especially in today's game, the way game has changed so much now, long gone are the days where you're going to have someone in charge for 10, 12, 15, 20 years. I don't think, probably, if we do see it, it's probably going to be 1 in every 100. You're not going to see, I don't think you're going to see it much more. Even, you look at Klopp at Liverpool right now, he's killing it. You look at Guardiola at Man City, Guardiola had a couple good years at Man City, and the people are already saying, okay, where's he going to go next? He had a fantastic time at Barcelona. Where's he going to go next? Well, he went to Bayern. He went there for 3 years. Absolutely, he won everything except for the Champions League. Where's he going to go next? Nowadays, it's just so quick. Everyone's moving left, right, centre, here, there. There's not any longevity. And it's not always because someone's losing their job, but it's because sometimes they're actually going on to a new challenge. So for me as an individual, I'm looking at some people and saying, right, okay, you've been in that role for 6, 7, 8 years as an ethnic coach. You can't tell me that's where you actually want to be for 6, 7 years. There's a reason why you're stopping at that point, and it's because your environment is probably one that's of diversity and not inclusion, which allows you to progress.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, it's like, I was just searching for the, like you touched on Bayern Munich, like where Guardiola. There's a Indian guy who, not Indian, he's a New Zealand guy with Indian origin who is there, Sarpreet Singh. So like to maybe like even you have like a lot of people who are going out and then maybe they are looking them, okay, like if you're born, if you're Indian, you have born in UK, or if you're born in maybe Germany, then they'll take interest in you. Okay, you might be good, but if you come
Mm-hmm.
from South Asia, they'll be okay, you don't play.
Yeah, but this is the thing, and unfortunately, that's the realities of the industry, and that's why I said, coming back to what I said before, we need to get to the point where we're starting to not look at one another as in from underrepresented groups, or if you be black, or if you be Asian, or whatever. Not look at each other as competitors, but look at each other as allies. Can we build together and grow together, and open doors and support one another, because we're facing the same challenges as other communities. Other communities are facing similar challenges to us. We can't say it's exactly the same, but we can relate to a lot of the things that we go through, right? We can relate because in these communities, culture is a massive thing, and there is going to be preconceived ideas about people's cultures. More of those preconceived ideas tend to come down to lack of understanding, lack of education around what that culture actually looks like, what their culture actually entails, if that makes sense. And I think that's the key part. So, for me, you're right. Subconsciously you think, oh, he's in Germany. Okay, he's not actually from India, or he's not actually from Pakistan, or he's not actually from Jamaica. He's not actually from Nigeria. He just happens to have a heritage from there. It's like you've got one group of people here. Okay, they were born and bred from their home countries. These people migrated. These people are second, third, fourth, and ongoing generations. So as you come out of that, yes, there's different perceptions of what you can potentially bring in terms of value to the environment, and whether you belong or not. And I think that you make a great point there.
I wanted to ask you. Okay, this is a very, very, I think maybe a difficult question. Like like you have like someone who has migrated just now, like maybe like someone who migrated from South Asia to any part wherever football is dominant, or whichever sport that person wants to take part in, and if it didn't work out, he or she can come back. Like, because okay, they have gone from here. But for you, since you're born and bred in UK, is that an option for you? Do you think that you would consider maybe going, okay, can I go to Asia to work if it happens? Or is it very difficult?
Yeah, I think to be honest with you, I think there's a couple things there. First of all, why do people come to Europe? Because generally it's seen as a higher standard. Okay, it's seen as the pinnacle, especially now when you talk about working in the Premier League as an example. It's widely considered the most competitive league in the world. Now, I guess the fortunate thing is for someone like myself is I'm getting exposure to that. I'm privy to that. I'm actually here where it happens, if that makes sense. So it's not that I guess people from over here wouldn't be open to necessarily moving and getting opportunities abroad. However, where everyone's got different pathways. I know coaches who have gone abroad, built some experience, and now have made the name for themselves over here because of the experience they've built elsewhere. There's people that have gone in the non-league route and work in semi-professional football, build some networks, build their connections, and then maybe get themselves an opportunity through that route. There's people that have gone through the academy system where they go start right at the bottom, under 9s, 10s, 11s, 12s, and over a longer period of time potentially get themselves towards the top of where they want to be. So I mean, there's so many different routes you can do it. For me personally, would I be open to going abroad? 100% I would. It doesn't have to be South Asia. It could be somewhere else in Europe. It could be in Africa. It could be in the Middle East, wherever that could be. Wherever the opportunity takes me, essentially. But for me, I think what's more important is what am I going to gain from the experience. I don't want to go somewhere just to say, oh well, I'm going to go and coach it in South Asia because I want to see what South Asia looks like. No, I have to. For me, it has to be deliberate and intentional in terms of what I'm going to do and how that's going to help me get to where I want to end up. So if I feel like there's an opportunity that, as an example, in India or Pakistan, and say, well, actually, let me go and work first team football in India or Pakistan. There's a great opportunity there. I get to travel the world. I might pick up some additional experiences. I might learn more about my own culture. I might learn more about the way things work in different countries. I might have to have a bigger impact on the organization that I end up joining. And these are all different skills that I can develop and then bring back with me. Now, if I have a thought out process as to why I'm going to take an opportunity, then I feel like that could be beneficial. I feel there's some coaches who don't see the benefit in going elsewhere, or better yet, they don't feel like they should have to go elsewhere. And I think one of the big, and this kind of maybe ties into the mentality of players over here too, and even just coaches. Players from England, more recently in the last couple of years, we've started to see it more often. But in the past, you don't really see people from England going abroad to play, especially not at the highest level. You don't really see coaches at the highest level wanting to go abroad to manage. But you see a lot of the other countries, the other European countries, the other continental countries, and people from those countries coming over to Europe, coming over to the Premier League in particular. So what happens is you've got all these coaches from Britain, from England. You've only got 20 teams in the country in the top league and top division. Now, I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but I think there's less than 5 of those would actually be English coaches. Why is that? Why is that? It's simply because it's the most competitive league. So if it's something that's most competitive, it's the highest thing, people from everywhere are going to try and gravitate towards that, which means there's going to be limited opportunities. So it's not about, like I said, everyone can go a different route, but it's about where you want to end up and how the decisions you make now will have an impact on what happens next. So if I know that I want to work in the first division or the first team at the top level, right? It's a big goal. It's not unachievable. It's a big goal. So what can I do now that's going to help me do that? Well, like I said, one, I could go through the academy at the club, really build my network, build my connections, build strong connected relationships with people, so that when someone else might be successful, they might ask me to come with them. I can go down the other route and maybe go with, like I said, in the semi-professional game, or start lower down with senior players and gain loads of experience doing that sort of stuff, and maybe with some success, someone could potentially say, well, yes, come and have it, come and I'm interested in what you're doing. I really like what you've done over there. Would you be interested in this opportunity over here? It could be that I say, right, I want to work at the top level, senior level, so I'm going to go and get experience around Europe, because I know that in order to work at the top level, what's one of the things that I'm probably going to have to look at doing? Well, they're going to be playing European football. So if I can develop my understanding of the game across Europe, and build networks across Europe, and build more relationships across there, so maybe it might expose me to different types of players, a different type of scouting network. So if I go into a club, these are some of the things you have to think about. Another thing that you can think about, obviously, when you're working at the top level, what are the benefits of being bilingual? Can I learn a new language? Can I go somewhere, immerse myself in the language? Because the higher up you go, the more likely it is you're going to be working with players from across the world. They're not just going to be from that country. Yes, they're going to come to that country. They're going to maybe try and learn how to speak language in that country, i.e. in this country, England, English. But if I want to work at the top level, I'm going to be working with players with Spanish-speaking countries, from French-speaking countries, from Italian-speaking countries, from Germans, and you name it. So I'm going to have to look at all these different things that are going to make me more appealing and valuable in that environment. And so to come back to your question, yes, I would consider opportunities abroad, but it have to be deliberate and intentional around where they were going to help me bring some value next, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. So, touching on one more point that you mentioned about being bilingual, do you speak any other language other than English?
So I can understand basic Urdu because I don't really speak it at home. But my father's family, they speak another language, and I can understand and speak that relatively well, and I can understand basic Spanish as well. I can communicate basic Spanish and understand a little bit, but outside of that, no. But like I said, one of the challenges we have in England, because everyone tends to learn English, it can make us lazy. Well, they're going to learn how to speak English anyway, or they're going to learn how to speek English anyway. They're coming over to our country, so they're going to pick up English, and it makes us lazy sometimes. And so you've got to push yourself to kind of work outside of that a little bit. And I think back to an experience I had a couple of years ago when I was working with a group of players, and I played from all over the world in that group. And at the time, I was learning Spanish. I still am. I've just been very lazy with it. But at the time, I was learning Spanish, and there were some Colombian players in the group. And I basically said to them, look, for the rest of the season, don't speak to me in English. If you have something to say to me, say it in Spanish. I want to learn how to speak your language. And I found that there was much more benefit to that than I initially expected, because what ended up happening was, because I had said that to them, they ended up having more respect and trust in me, because they were like, oh, he's actually making an effort to come around to our side of the table. It's not us having to come around to them, if that makes sense. So I think that taught me a massive lesson in that respect. It's about, and again, it's about being inclusive. Why should I expect you to always fit in with me and integrate with me? Why can't it be the other way around? So, again, and at the time, I guess I never realized it, but yeah, it was about creating an inclusive environment. I want to know more about you. I want to know more about that language. I know that culture, and I think it's having that proactive mindset towards it, which is going to help as well.
Yo hablo un poco español.
I'll pass on that one. I can see. I know what you said. I don't know what I would say back in it. But like I said, I can understand it. But I guess the confidence in terms of speaking is kind of gone out the window a little bit.
What do you say that? Then I don't know what do you say that. I think you say muy bien. Muy bien, I think. Good. I mean, just okay. I don't know, okay, and yeah, no, what you said about fitting the table. I think I'll just for myself. I'm not representing anyone or any particular voice, but my own particular. I really feel that when you compete, when you see about anyone analyzing, because I have history of maybe with computer science, and my background, whatever, like, my education background is from that. Not only anyone, like, apart from, even when you see Guy Neville analyzing it, when I think like, okay, like, that's, he's not saying something wow, because what he's analyzing is just a game, like 22 players. People consider it a lot. It gives joy to many. Yes, that is all there, but it's not building. It's not rocket science. You're not sending rocket to outside space. So it's decodable. You can decode it. You can learn it. You can. I mean, like, if you can learn how to send a rocket to space, or you can perform a surgery which probably seemed alien maybe 10 years back. Football is still pretty much easy, although it's very competitive. So I feel like this part of the, I think that's what people are missing out, in my opinion, is like this part of the world produces huge amount of people with technical knowledge, or at least technical, like, not even if you don't say knowledge, technical, education that is being thrown at them, which they can, if if they can, like, channel it, it would be better than what they have. I feel that is my personal opinion. I think again the network is, I have an internet issue, so I'll wait. I think there's a network issue again. Okay, yeah, I'm back. So
There
yeah,
you go.
yeah. So I was like, that's what I was saying. Like, if they could channel that, then you could find a lot of people who are really good. Like, and that is just again my personal opinion. And whatever exposure I had with whatever people during my trips, whoever I spoke to, I realized that, okay, like, that is something like, I wouldn't say that people from Europe, or predominantly more successful in terms of trophies. Uh, those who with football trophies are more, or are superior. They may have more experience. That is not because of them. That is because of the previous generation. For whatever reason, they left down a legacy, or they started playing a sport much longer than probably others were playing, or they probably changed the rule to their liking, and rebranded the sport, because apparently, again, I can't testify for it, but apparently football was in China, Japan, but they played different rules, and they, so it was like, you can't say, okay, like, they just branded it. It's like, if I start a game today, and maybe 30 years, 40 years down the line, maybe my country will be the best in that game, or the
Mm.
most advanced, although I may not. So it's like something. So I'll not waste more time on this. I'll get to the podcast also. I wanted to ask. It's almost been an hour and we have not touched on it. So you said like you were bored and lockdown made you start. So when you started, what was, you have a lot of series. I have seen insight and how to, like, what is it like? What is your main idea? You said like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, the idea initially was, yeah, I just wanted to sit down with different coaches and I guess talk about different coaching topics. So it started off like that. I started off with a few, I guess, friends of mine that are also coaches, and I think I'm sure you can relate. Uh, when you've got an idea, you're passionate about it. You can't expect others to have the same level of passion for it. And one of the things I found that was happening for me early on was I was very keen to get the ball rolling, but obviously other people have things going on in their lives. They've got time commitments, they've got children, they've got families, and the rest of it. So I guess it was a thing where in order for it to get the ball rolling, I was too reliant on everyone else being available. So it started off with, as you said, the sit down series, which was basically me talking with these guys about different coaching topics. But I wanted to really make it different to maybe some of the other coaching podcasts and things that were out there. So I didn't really want to talk about tactics and strategies and stuff like that, or systems and different styles of play. It was more around, right, how do we work with players? How do we help players develop in those different areas? Whether that be communication, whether it be how to give feedback, whether that be our own professional development and things like that. But like I said, I was relying on everyone else to kind of be available and make that happen. Beyond that, then, so I had this idea, and I wanted to be educational. I want other coaching and how they've got to where they've got to. So I decided I was just going to reach out to a couple who started off with a friend of mine. And that was basically the Insight series. So the Insight series kind of began with me just speaking to one of my friends, and I 2-3 minutes into it, I was just thinking, because I was looking for, okay, which direction am I going to take this whole podcast in? Because I'm now motivated to do it, but it's not quite where I want it to be. So I did the interview with my friend, and it just went really well. And I just thought, you know what, this is the direction I'm going. So I just started interviewing loads of different coaches, and a few months later, starting to pick up. Within the first 8 to 12 weeks, I'm now in 25 countries. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, this is quite amazing. I never expected this. And then, I sat down at that point with my wife, and I said, you know what, I think this is going really well. I want to make it even bigger. I want to be around the world, and if I manage to get to 25 countries so soon, then I'm sure I can get beyond that. And then we were just like, okay, so start making a list of people who you want on the show. We started doing that. I started saying some big names, and I couldn't believe some of the names I was saying. But I was like, she was like, well, just write them down, and we'll see what happens. So then after a couple of months, I had this idea that coaching is such a transferable thing, and the way coaching's gone now in the world of sport is much more holistic. There's different industries involved. There's there's sports scientists and strength and conditioners. There's psychologists. There's there's all these different things that are involved in sport now at the elite level. So why not just start bringing those people into it as well? So then that's when the idea of the How-To series came about, where it's still working on coaching related stuff, but from a different perspective. And then as time was going on, what actually happened was, in the first couple of months, I didn't realize, but I was recording so many and interviewing so many different people that I actually, within the first maybe 8 to 12 weeks, I actually recorded 60 episodes. And I didn't even realize. I was just going through the motions, and it was crazy, because I remember when I first started, because I had a newborn at the time. He's just turned 1 now, but he was about 3-4 months, maybe slightly older than that when I first started. And obviously I was relying on him being quiet, him staying quiet, so I can actually record. So some of the episodes I actually had to go in my car, park down the road in a quiet space, and then record it like that. And then other times I'll record in the bedroom, and then sometimes my wife would have to take him out the house because I was recording. And it's crazy, when you think about all the stuff that kind of led to it. And then I guess as time went on, I had so much content. And I guess it was growing. It was now in 30 countries by December. So December come, and I basically said, people are obviously enjoying the content. People are engaging with it. Now, I guess it's important to maybe highlight one of the key reasons why I put it together, because obviously, like I said at the top of the conversation, people like myself and yourself, there's not much visibility for us in the industry. People don't really see brown people in the industry. So I wanted it to be almost a situation where people are seeing the types of conversations I'm having. They can see that, okay, people like me and people like you, the people that look like us, have got something to bring to the game. We have got value to add. We do know our stuff too. And not look at us as if we don't belong in the game, but look at us as an asset to the game. So as time went on, I've started having more and more conversations, sharing more information, and I had so much content, and so speaking to so many different people, that I decided, you know what, for the month of December, I'm gonna put 3 out a week. So up till that point, so I think for the first 3 months, it was only once a week. Then it was twice a week for a couple of months. Then it was 3 times a week from December. Now the plan was just for December to put 3 times a week. I then did that again in January, but in between that, I had another thought, and I thought, you know what, I've started bringing all these other people from different industries or different backgrounds and disciplines into this as well. But why limit it to football? So I started thinking out wider and reaching out to different people. So I've obviously since then a lot's happened. I've still recorded loads of different episodes now, but since then I've had golf coaches, tennis coaches, and rugby coaches, and even ex-players, and even ex-players, ex-coaches, and from different sports. So eventually another one that I was working on, I'll come back to that list that I was putting together. I put some big names on there. One of the names was Shaquille O'Neal. Put Shaquille O'Neal in there, and I told my friends about it, and they were like, "No, you're crazy. It's not going to happen." I was like, "No, it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen." And then I remember, we'll get to about October. This is about 4 or 5 weeks after I sat down with my wife and said, "I want Shaquille O'Neal on my podcast." And then, my wife, between so me and her, been, been kind of working really hard at this whole podcast together. And next thing you know, get to the start of October, and we managed to find a way to speak to Shaquille O'Neal. She finds a way to speak to Shaquille O'Neal. She gets through to Shaquille. I remember this very clearly because one day I was literally on my way to work, and she gave me a call. And she goes, "Oh, you never believe what's just happened." I was like, "What's up?" And she goes, "I've just got off the phone to Shaquille O'Neal." So I was like, "Okay." And I mean, in my mind, it's like this one of them was just, wow, that's incredible. I can't believe that, but at the same time, I could, because I was so confident that it will happen that I wasn't shocked by it, if that makes sense. And then we set a date, we set a time to record back in October, and what had happened was we was meant to record it. Let's say it was 10 o'clock over here, and he's 5 hours behind us. So got to 10 o'clock, got to 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And staying up late, and I'm we're and messages us about 3:30, which is about maybe half an hour or so after we've fallen asleep, and saying, "Yeah, let's go, I'm ready." I was like, "Oh man, like we've just missed Shaquille O'Neal," which is crazy. And then kind of things died down for a couple of weeks. There wasn't that much contact, and we tried again a few weeks later. Same thing happened again, and then we tried again, and then I basically said to her, on Christmas Day, let's just drop him a message, see what he says. And he was like, "Yeah, we're going to do it today. This is Christmas Day." And then basically we're waiting for him. We set a time similar to last time. We're waiting. Time going, 1 hour going, 2 hours going, 3 hours going, 4 hours going. My wife goes and has a shower, wipes her makeup off, is ready for bed. And then she gets a text saying from Shaquille O'Neal saying, "Let's go." I said, "You got to put your makeup back on." "Let's go. We got to put your makeup back on. We got to make this happen, because this is gonna happen tonight. I told you it was gonna happen tonight, and it's gonna happen." And then lo and behold, on New Year's Day, I released an episode with Shaquille O'Neal, and since then things have just been brilliant, because I've had some other fantastic guests since that day. The podcast went from being in what was 30 countries before the new year to now 69 countries. Which is like, it's incredible. Like, I still can't believe that, my voice is being heard in 69 countries. And, I think if it's taught me anything, it's if you want something bad enough, or if you're genuine with your intent to achieve something, you can achieve it. You've just got to have self-belief and confidence. And, God knows where the podcast is going to go next. And this wasn't my plan. Now I'm here. I want it to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I want to try and take it to the next level. So you talked at the top of the conversation that you came into contact via the Coaches Network podcast, but there is other elements to the Coaches Network, and those bits are around coach education, mentoring. I work with other coaches, work with local teams and support their coaches, and I'm working with local county FAs around their coach development programs. So over the next few weeks and months, I've got some events lined up with different organizations, working with some of the local universities and doing guest speaking for some of their students. So there's so many things that are going on. So it's exciting times in terms of that. It's growing. It's going really well, and then there's hopefully going to be massive opportunities off the back of it.
Definitely. So I'll not keep you holding for much long. I think your your baby is calling you, and I have the three major stuff to say from whatever you said till now. First, the Shaquille O'Neal part. It was a very big podcast for you and the show for you. Congratulations on that. Even I was shocked, because it was not something that you had put out like normally. Okay, this is coming out or something, and then it just I think on New Year's Day I saw you sharing it, so I was like, wow, that's quite nice. And yeah, the part that what I wanted to say about that full thing is that relating on following up, it gets like how you follow up, you wait, you follow up, you wait. Are you comfortable doing that? I feel very uncomfortable doing that, because I think okay, it's very
Listen, if there's one thing that my life has taught me, is if you don't ask, you don't get.
no, the
Right?
thing
And
I have faced that a lot. When you were saying that, if I can,
but the thing is, you say that, but from my experience, some of these people I've asked a couple times, and I've chased them up. But with Shaquille, I was never in doubt that it was going to happen. It was just when it was going to happen. And what I've had people that I've reached out to that didn't acknowledge it at all. I've then reached out to them again oh, sorry, we didn't get the first one. I know you got the first one, but it doesn't matter. You're here now. Some people it took three emails. Some people took 4 contacts. Some people took 5 contacts. But you've got to stay persistent. You've got to stay persistent, and I think that's the key thing. And for every time that you don't persist, there will be someone else that will be persisting. And that's the key thing I can kind of take away from that. And I just keep pushing. Because with that mentality, it's gonna happen. And if it's not with Shaquille, it will work with someone else.
No,
And
I understand. I relate that with that a lot. You don't like you said like okay, we didn't get the first one. I have had people who said to me, I send them the Zoom link. And the thing is, I ask them what date you are comfortable, which probably even you have to do because you are calling them over as guests, so you have to ask for the day and time you are comfortable, and they give you a whatever time they want, and or they ask you to contact your the assistant, whatever. So you fix a time, and they don't, and they ask you to send the Zoom, and they don't show up. This is a true story. I'll not say who it is, but when I message that person again, like that day, like I like so and so, I'm sorry, I think you are busy today. If you want, we can reschedule it to another day. That person had the audacity to say me, I am in the Zoom link waiting for the last 1 hour where I was waiting. Like you can say you didn't receive the email, okay. That it can go to spam, I'll give the person the benefit of the doubt. But you can't say you were in the Zoom meeting waiting for the past 1 hour when I'm clearly waiting there. I mean that's
Yeah, I mean, what I found there's some people I've had that as well, where I've made an I guess a time with them and a set time with them, and they haven't shown up for whatever reason. But equally, there's been if I'm honest, there's been a couple of times where that's happened on the other side of it because I maybe agreed a time, and I forgot to put it in my diary. So it can happen, these things can happen. I think, but as time goes on, you start to learn different ways of kind of managing and organizing yourself a little bit more. But it's about staying persistent, man. And just because something didn't work out the first time doesn't mean it's not going to work out the second time. You just got to keep trying. You got to keep trying. And if you want it bad enough, it's going to happen. So, for instance, I was dead set on the idea that I was going to get Shaquille O'Neal on my podcast. Nothing was going to stand in the way of that, and it happened. And I don't know anyone else personally that has actually interviewed Shaquille O'Neal. I don't know anyone. So for me, like I said, if there's anything to kind of take away from this conversation, you got to set your eyes on something and just go for it.
do you by any chance or have you by any chance read or are reading The Secret? Because the things you said like writing down and like
No, do you know what? Yeah, funnily enough, I personally haven't read it, but my wife has.
okay, no, because these are the like like at least it stems or it oozes of those stuff, like writing down and believing okay it
Yeah,
happened, like
but it is what it is. I think it's scientifically proven that if you write something down, you're more likely to be committed to achieving it.
no,
It's not just a it's
I
not
have
just a
I have written
made up.
people's name and they don't come. No, I'm just saying.
If
So,
you maybe you need to be more specific. Might be write the person's name down, and you've got to write down all the different ways that you could communicate with them, all the different ways that you could make it happen, all the different ways that could go wrong, and and counting every possible, I guess, eventuality or probability or probable situation, and then you can start to narrow out. Okay, this didn't work. This didn't work. This didn't work. Okay, I'm going to try this one now. I'm going to try this one now, and then look at it from that perspective. Because sometimes we can do that, but if we don't, you can put it down in writing. But if it's not in depth, if it's not in detail, you're not going to get anything out of it.
no, contacting the person has never been difficult for me, but like the worst part is when someone okay clearly denies you. Fine, it's understandable, but saying so and so reason,
But here's the
they
thing. Here's the thing I'll say to you from experience. If they've opened up a line of communication in the first place, the chances are they probably did want to do it, or they are genuine about wanting to do it. The
no,
timing is just probably not right.
I get what you mean, and I totally understand that because at least that person, whoever it is, being clear, okay, I'm busy or I'm so and so, that's understandable. But the very next day, if you go and do podcast with someone else, it's not doesn't sound good, right? I mean, like that.
But
I mean,
yeah, I
it's
mean, it happens. Yeah, I mean,
so yeah. I mean, like okay, and like yeah. Another two things I want to say, and we'll wrap it up probably. Is the first one you said like how you want like you like at least we are showing like our voices can be heard. First of all, your what you do is kind of different from mine, and what you do is very very advanced and in depth compared to mine. Mine is very shallow. It's very very shallow in comparison to what you do. And this
Yeah,
I'm not trying to sugarcoat. Maybe because with what experience you have in terms of education, like football, you said like you are involved in football education. Maybe that helps, kind of, like giving that depth, which probably I am not looking to cater to. Maybe because it like maybe like my ideology is a little bit different. Maybe on the whole it looks same, and probably it is same. What you do is speak football, basic is that, but in depth I feel generally your what you do is way 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 more detailed and more helpful, and probably someone with who wants to get into football full time will find it way more useful, like in maybe
yeah,
not.
and I think to be honest, there's loads of podcasts out like this. I think what I've tried to do differently, though, like I said before, is I'm not talking about tactics. I'm not talking about strategies. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. It's not that. I think there's too much content out there for that sort of stuff. For me, it was about there's so many different people in the industry. And this is more specifically to my Insight series. There's so many different people in the industry that I want to know, how did you get to where you got to? What was your journey like? What did you do to get there? What were some of the challenges you faced? I want to know about the person behind the journey, not just this person is from here and they're over here. I want to know the journey, and I think that's the key part, and that's the bit that kind of separates it from what I'm doing now to maybe some of the other stuff that's out there.
No, but yeah, I mean, like you need to do that because I think, like, because like you said, there are many podcasts who are touching on this subject. Maybe not what you are doing, but in football in general, there are a lot of podcasts, or there are a lot of options to listen to. So you need to be different. But for me, I think it's like it's kind of like first movers benefit, like where probably there are not many people in the market who are doing this thing in this part of the world. Like you have like maybe the local ones, but I'm merging. You get the local, maybe like you have the South Asian players or coaches coming over, but I you also have the Premier League or the MLS players or the Bundesliga players, coaches, whatever, coming over. So I think like that gives like me more freedom in the sense that I don't have to be specific like what you have to do. I feel like in the sense I can be more broad. Okay, I feel like discussing about tactics today, although it might not work. I mean, in the sense, but I can experiment with that because there is not many people. There is not many other options for people to go to.
Yeah, like I said, for me, okay. You know, like I said, there's two things here. Like I said earlier, I want to kind of have it as an opportunity for people to see what I can offer, the conversations I can have, the knowledge I've got, and I can bring to the table. So it's almost like it's almost like an ongoing advert of who I am. You know, if you like, for you know, it's like a resume for people to kind of look in and say, oh, do you know what, he knows his stuff. Can we get him involved? Or what, you know, I like the way he thinks. Or do you know what I mean? And the other side of it is it's an opportunity for me to learn. I want to know, right, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on this? You know, what's your background been? How did you get there? And, you know, what were the key things that influenced your journey? Okay, is there things I can learn from that? Is there things I can relate to? Is there things that you say that make me think differently? Is there things that you say that have made me think that what I'm currently thinking is the right way of doing things? And that's what I'm just interested in, just about learning about what other people are doing and whether that's going to change or challenge my own perceptions and behaviors.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Like you're basically creating and to be you're making a CV for yourself, but in digitally. You know, like I don't know whether it
Yeah,
makes sense. You're
precisely.
making a CV, but digitally, where you do not have anything written, but it's out there. Like okay, like just even as connection. Okay, maybe you do not know them personally so well, but of course, when you contact with them, you will know them. You at least you can by seeing that you maybe some other opportunity will open up for you, which probably would not have opened up if you did not do this.
100%, 100%. Like even now, this conversation that I'm having with certain people in certain organizations, that if I wasn't doing this, I probably wouldn't be having I definitely wouldn't be having those conversations. And if I was going to have them, they wouldn't be happening right now.
different. And I think the other thing I have is, I think I have a major advantage. I feel is, since I'm in Nepal, there are not many people from this part of the world approaching those people from maybe Europe. So
Mm,
when I approach, or someone from here approaches, like, it's like a novelty. Like, okay, oh wow, they from someone from that part of the world is coming. Like, but whereas when you
mm,
approach, you come as, okay, I'm from UK. So they normally get a lot of people from UK, maybe approaching them, like you said, for podcast. So they might hold you, okay, like, we do this, but because you come, like, they won't say, okay, like, you are from this, you are from, you're a South Asian, although even I'm a South Asian. But since I am doing it from Nepal, I think it gives them a different perspective. Like, I mentioned one person, like one, I don't know whether you're aware, or I don't know whether it is true, or he just said that maybe to please me. I don't know for what reason, but maybe he did that. There's someone, you might know, Bill Beswick. He was the English psychologist. So I don't know whether he does interview or not. I have not seen a lot. So when I approached him, he agreed to come over, and we did it, and we did it in October or November, I guess. And at the end, he says, like, the only reason I did it with you is because you're from Nepal, or else I would not entertain an idea like that, because I really don't get into this, because probably because his field is something where you don't, the lesser you speak, better for him. Because if there's some information which he kind of says, which is not supposed to be said, which is not supposed to be out in public, then he'll be in a big problem. And similarly, I think the second, another guy I did today was Patrick Anderson, former Bayern Munich and Barcelona player. So the link was, I didn't know at all. When I approached him, he said, okay, okay. And today he sent me photos. I don't know whether you can see. I'll just try showing it to you. He was in Nepal in 2017, competing in a challenge, which apparently, whether you can see here. Okay, I don't know whether you can see. I'll try to send it to you. But so he was competing in some challenge here in Nepal. So basically, it's like, I'm a celebrity, get me out of jungle, but more tough, in the sense, I don't know, like, you can call him like Bear Grylls type, man versus the wildish. Like, you get dropped in one part of the jungle and you have to survive and get to a civilization. So he took part along with John and Reese, so in 2017. So I didn't know, like, I don't know, like, first of all, it's not a big thing. Like, for them, it's entertainment. For many year, it might be a day-to-day activity to survive, like. So, like, for you,
mm.
what is entertainment, maybe some for someone here. So yeah, so, like, like, maybe, like, his connection with Nepal back then maybe opened up the door for me right now to
100%.
speak.
100%. And I
Maybe.
think, if that's like everything is timing and persistence. So if you stay persistent, if someone told you that they're going to do it, they probably will do it. It's just finding the right time. There's people that I've been speaking to for months now that have still not had a chance to sit down and actually get the recording done, but the conversations are still taking place. We're still communicating, which means if they're communicating, they're probably still interested. It's just not the right time yet. So I would say, stick with that, and you never know where it's going to take you, man.
No, no, yeah, I totally get it. That is completely true, because probably I spoke to someone last May, and probably we might have done it today, or we might have done it yesterday, whatever. Like, so that gap I can understand. Like, the one person right there is, I think he's the general secretary of Inter Milan. So he generally says it to me, like, see, I'll not be able to do it right now because there is a transfer window. I really can't dedicate time to you, and or I can't dedicate because it's a delicate situation. Because if, like, they wouldn't want me to be
Mm, mm.
out. Similar, like, you have a lot of people like that who would generally just say it, and I'm totally fine with it. Like, like, yeah, you understand, like, yeah, they are like a big names that you're dealing with, or at least, like, who are big names in their particular industry, or were big names in their particular industry at one point of time, or still are. It's just like, when you need to follow up again and again, it's fine, but you just feel an uncomfortable, like, atmosphere when you write, okay, hello, good morning or good afternoon, so and so, so and so, I just checking whether you, and they reply back, and again it didn't happen. So for me personally, it's very awkward. Although that should be very normal, like you said, like, you need to Many of them will call that hustle, but that that kind of hustle is kind of like it's a very like even I can understand from his or her point of view that okay they want to come but they're not getting the time. So am I putting them in a difficult spot?
Exactly.
Am I putting him in a difficult spot by continuously asking?
No, because the thing is, I think that the persistence will show that actually you want this to happen. You want this to happen, and I think that in itself makes them feel more inclined to actually then want to be involved because actually you really want this. So I think that bit's key.
Definitely, definitely. So, so we'll wrap it up with one final thing. Like you are running successfully the podcast right now. You said 69 countries recently, and you have huge names coming over. Although they were coming from all the way from beginning, but now I just saw today. I was not aware, but you had Saul Campbell also. I would love to have him somewhere down the future. You never know. But yeah, so because and you are also doing like coach education at the side. Like, or is that and if so, going forward, like if you had to give advice for anyone starting, because podcast is something that like every few years something comes up, some trend comes up and people jump onto it, and I think that podcast is the trend now where everyone is doing it.
Yeah,
So
I,
if someone wants to do this,
yeah.
what would you what advice would you give that person, like how should they go about?
I think first and foremost, like I said, have a vision, but make sure that your vision is clear for you, and don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't wait for it to be perfect because what will happen is if you're waiting for it to be perfect, you might never get started. Get it started. Take each step as it comes in. It's better to start with something and then work it and make it, build it better, make it get better all along the way than just not having a product. So I think getting started is the key. Um, Also, don't pay attention to what everyone else is doing because it's very easy to look left and look right and say, I want to do a bit of this and I want to do a bit of that. And I was there at one point, I was looking at other people and thinking, oh, they're doing that really well, they're doing that really well. You take some ideas, look at that, but don't focus on those. Focus on what your vision is and try and drive towards that vision is probably the most important thing I'd say. And finally, remember who's actually supporting you through the process. The ones that are there supporting you through the process, make sure that they feel appreciated and valued for the support they've given you as well. And I think that's probably the biggest bits I can probably share in terms of advice.
Definitely, and no, like what you said about no, do not look probably into what others are doing, and you have your own pace and clock. What probably works for you, or it may not work. Maybe podcast is not your thing. You'll realize that soon. And I think like generally, if when you start, at least you'll have a lot of people who will be coming over, so you'll not be able to get a time to look into someone else's work. I think, like you said, like you had recorded 60 in the first like 8 to 12 weeks, and I can vouch for that. Even I underwent something similar stuff where you have people coming, at least in the beginning. You have the thing, okay, we'll record this, and you get a lot of done because okay, I'll just say that from May till I think November beginning, I had an episode releasing every day last year,
Wow. Okay.
every day, every day. And after that also I have a lot, but it's like what happens is you get to be frank, you get lazy. Okay, you get very lazy doing it, like
That's
because
the thing. I think whatever you do, I think you've got to stay consistent with it. So just to kind of add on a final bit on in terms of the advice part is whatever you commit to or whatever you decide you're going to do, stick with it. So if you say you're going to do one a week, stick to that. Don't do too much. Don't do too little. Just do what you can manage, but make sure you stick with that. So if it is one a week, do one a week because then whoever's going to be listening or tuning into it is going to be expecting that once a week. If you say twice a week, do it twice a week. If you say it 3 times a week, do 3 times a week. If you're going to go all every day, go every day. But make sure that you can manage it. Make sure that you can handle. You can actually produce that. But also, you want to make sure that you're producing content that you're happy with, and not just putting stuff out there because you just want to put stuff out there. So wait until you're ready to put loads of stuff out there before you put loads of stuff out there. But start with something, build it up, and then as time goes, you'll start refining it. You'll polish it. You'll add a little bit here, take a little bit away there, and it will get closer to the way you want it.
no, I get that. And yeah, the thing is like you said, like it took me like 6 7 movie above around 200 interviews episodes to realize okay, I need to take a break, or I need to do, okay, this is not something I want to do. I want to make it like better, maybe in whatever terms, maybe aesthetically
Mm,
better, or question, or the talk that is being spoken better. It took me literally, I'm not even kidding,
mm,
200
mm.
episodes.
Right.
And then I realized, okay, this is not like how it's going, or people, would I watch it? Basically, the main thing is, would I watch this if it was on YouTube or any other platform? Would I spend whatever time it is? I don't know. So if I don't know, like, then I need to think. And the main thing I would say, personally, if I had to, what I felt was, in the beginning, you're just satisfied with people coming over. Be it, okay, I get to speak with this person. Okay, I'm getting to speak with this person, probably. And beat anyone, whoever is starting a podcast will feel that, okay, wow, Dwight York is coming, wow, this person is coming, I just need to somehow get everything done. But then you need to realize that, I feel personally, is you should, I understood the importance of having series, or why big houses have series, because then, okay, when you have done with this many, even if it looks less, it's good, it's done. You can maybe change, or you can, like, similar thing I did for my workshop. I conducted few workshops for on free for many, for the local people here. And we got many people from UK online, to deliver, beat referees or coaches. So I did it like four for coaches and four for referees, and that was it. I realized I wanted to continue that, but like, it would be okay, I would maybe go to 8 episodes, and maybe the speed would drop down. So I was like, okay, four is fine for each, and probably if it happens in the future, I can maybe explore that option. So I feel that is something personally for me, I feel. And yeah, I wanted, the reason I, when you were saying something, I was also using my laptop and screen to see some other thing. I wanted to say, like, you have a, since you have connection to Pakistan, because of your mother, you have a, I think, a Spanish coach, who is the, I think, the head coach of women's team, and also the technical director. So you should probably get in touch with him. I'll probably say his name. His name is Daniel Limones. So he used to work for Atletico Madrid, I think, youth, and now is the uh, technical director for Pakistan football in general. So probably you should get in touch with him. Probably it may work out in some
Yeah,
way.
that'd be good, man.
Yeah, like, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
thank you so much for coming, and it was like, think, wonderful talk, almost 1.5 hour. And yeah, I think I have to edit out a little bit parts where your laptop charge was over. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Likewise, thank you for having me, man.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Player-wise, it would have to be Steven Gerrard, just because, again, before he became a journalist, he was someone I just admired massively in terms of the absolute complete footballer. I think if you were trying to like make a footballer in a factory, it would be Steven Gerrard, someone who, I think JB Carragher summed it up best once when he said, Steven Gerrard's biggest strength is he doesn't have any weaknesses.
The stadium. I don't see really need to do that. Mainly such a big spending. But it's true that it would be a fantastic stadium. That's not bad, but you have to be careful. And mainly at this moment, when we are going to face a very difficult time.